Hello, and welcome to your second remote art lesson. Today I want to introduce something called the 7 elements of art. The 7 elements are 7 different parts that when you use them in different ways and put them together, you create art. So each week I will focus on a different one of the elements and we'll talk a little bit about it. Today what we are focusing on is shape. So in art, shape has to be two-dimensional, which means it's flat on the paper, and it has to be completely enclosed by a line, so there are no gaps. A shape is completely closed up. There are 2 categories of shape, which is geometric. These are usually straight lines made of corners and angles. And these are the type of shapes that you've learned about since your very first day of kindergarten. Triangle, square, circle, diamond, rectangle. The other category is called organic shapes. These are more free, curvy. They're naturally found in the world around you, like the shape of a flower or a leaf, a feather. Even you and I are more organic shapes. We'll use both geometric and organic shapes when we create art. And that's just a brief introduction of how you can think about shape. For the next part of our lesson, I'd like to read you a story about one particular shape and the changes that it goes through. As I'm reading the story, focus on the shape's changes and think about ways that you could show that in your own artwork. This is Perfect Square by Michael Hall. It was a perfect square. It had 4 matching corners and 4 equal sides. And it was perfectly happy. But on Monday, the square was cut into pieces and poked full of holes. It wasn't perfectly square anymore. So it made itself into a fountain that babbled and giggled and clapped. On Tuesday, the square was torn into scraps. So it made itself into a garden. On Wednesday, the square was shredded into strips. So it made itself into a park. On Thursday, the square was shattered. So it made itself into a bridge. On Friday, the square was snipped into ribbons. So it made itself into a river. On Saturday, the square was crumpled and ripped and wrinkled. So it made itself into a mountain. On Sunday, the square waited to see what was next. It waited and waited. Nothing happened. Its 4 equal sides were confining. Its 4 matching corners were rigid and cramped. So it made itself into a window. That looked out on a mountain, that gave birth to a river, that was crossed by a bridge, that led to a park, that was home to a garden, that had, at its center, a fountain that babbled and giggled and clapped. Okay, now it's time to gather your supplies so you can make a project. What you'll need today is a sheet of paper. If you don't have a plain white sheet like in the picture, Just find anything, even a piece of notebook paper is fine. You'll also need a perfect square. You can use construction paper if you have it. If you have just plain white paper, you can color it first if you'd like, but then you need to cut it into a square shape. You'll also need a glue stick or liquid glue if you have it, a pair of scissors, and something to draw or color with. I used markers in mine. If you don't have markers, find crayons, colored pencils, even a normal writing pencil is fine. You just need something you can write with. So what I want you to make today is take your very own perfect square that you have in front of you, and I want you to transform it in some way, just like in the book. Take your perfect square, you can rip it, you can cut it, you can crinkle it up, you can draw on it. Anything you'd like is fine. I just need it to be something that is not a square when you're finished, and I want you to glue it onto your other sheet of paper, so it's a completed artwork when you're finished. If you'd like an idea from the book, go ahead and rewind the video, look at some of the pictures in there, and it's fine to use one of those ideas. In the story, the artist made his square into a fountain, he made a mountain, he made a garden. Any of those are great ideas if you'd like to use them. If you have your own idea, that's great too. I really want you to get creative and have some fun with this. So the next part of our video is me making my art project. You can follow along and make yours with me if you'd like, or just go ahead and finish the video, and when it's through, you can make your own project. Now the very first thing I'm doing, of course, is writing my name on my paper. Once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over so I have a blank sheet to start with. I'll get my perfect square, making a plan of what I'd like to turn it into. Now I'm going to use scissors on mine. Like I said, if you don't have scissors with you, that's fine. Just tear yours. Now what I've decided to make my square into is grass. So I'm deciding what the best way to do that is. And I think I'm going to cut it into strips. Once I have the strips cut on one of the pieces, I just put a thin line of glue so I can attach the bottom of it to my sheet of paper. Once that's done, I'm just going to do the same thing on the other sheet and glue it down as well. All right, my grass is glued down. I've changed my square. Now what I'm going to do is go back and use my markers to draw in some details and really make a full scene. Like I said, you can do this with markers, crayons, colored pencils, even just a normal writing pencil or pen is fine. I just want you to add some type of details in your drawing. Let's see if you can guess what I've decided to add into my grass. Can you tell what it is yet? So, if you can't tell, I decided to add a little bunny rabbit peeking up out of the grass. I still have a lot of blank space on my paper, so I think I'll go back in and add some more details. I decided to add in a few butterflies and bumblebees to keep the bunny some company. All right, I've added in what I think is a good amount of details. You can feel free to add as much as you'd like on yours. Add lots of color, fill in any space that you think would look nice. So this is my finished project. The main thing I want you to think about after you've made your project is, how did your square change? Every one of us started out with the same shape, and I'm guessing each of our pictures looks very different now. To close out our lesson, I just want to quickly go back over what we learned today about shape. Shape has to be two-dimensional, so it has to be flat on your paper, and it has to be completely enclosed by a line. If there's a gap, then it's not a shape. There are two categories of shapes that we talk about in art. There's geometric, which are the kind of shapes you've learned all throughout school. They're usually made of straight lines, corners, and angles. Circles and ovals are the exception to that. These kind of shapes you find in buildings, in our furniture, in our books, things that people have made. Organic is the other category of shape. These ones are more curvy, they're free, and they occur naturally in our world. They're things like flowers or leaves, or even our own body. When you look outside and you see things growing, they don't grow in perfect squares or triangles. It would be kind of funny if they did, but they grow in organic shapes. We'll use both of them for the rest of the year in art. I just want you to remember the basics about shape are it has to be completely enclosed by a line and it has to be flat on your paper. Thank you so much for participating. And I hope by next week we have our Canvas working so that you are able to upload pictures so I can see your beautiful artwork.